He is a walking, talking, sometimes eating, sometimes drinking obsession. A man given to preoccupation with details and precision. A ruthless, calculating, and yet fiery, passionate leader of men. A football coach measures his successes with wins. His ultimate definition, though, comes with trophies. Jimmy Johnson is a finisher who also likes to start things. He has historically moved from town to town, team to team, after his job is done. Look for new challenges, new obsessions. In the span of 1 week, the Dallas Cowboys coach has boasted and cajoled and intimidated and inspired and offended and amused the football world.
Thanks to you guys, y'all did the walking, all right? Hey, and one thing, this week I'm not going to say a word. You know how I feel, but I'm not going to say a word, but I will say one thing right now. How about them Cowboys?
But with 5 years to go on a contract worth $1 million a year, Jimmy Johnson is thinking about his place in history and just where that place might be. Yet, like the shark in his tank, he needs to keep moving, keep devouring his prey. Just when you think you've got him pegged, he does something else that makes you think you'll never have him figured out, says his safety, Bill Banks. Well, today in our exclusive extended conversation, we'll talk about roots and wings, raising hell and winning rings with pro football's most compelling coach, Jimmy Johnson, up close.
You heard him say it last week. You can talk the talk, but you got to be able to walk the walk. Well, he walked the walk, and that's why he's doing the talk. Jimmy Johnson, welcome. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Roy.
First question on the box, are they brass or are they...
The only thing that I can guarantee is they are not paper mache.
Okay. Here's the thing I want to talk about. Putting yourself on the line in life, not just in coaching. You know, you can talk a lot, as you did last week, a lot of bravado. Some say manipulation, riding the emotional roller coaster as you did, and even saying and doing some outrageous things. People love it in the profession of writing and covering this stuff. He's a colorful guy. Who doesn't like it are your opponents, and some of the people who say you're mocking them, or some of the people who suggest he's going to get his. It's a dangerous game you're playing, isn't it?
Well, I think it's dangerous when you try to cover yourself all the time. It's a dangerous game if you want to be in the middle of the road. You want everybody to like you. Mm-hmm. It's a dangerous game if you live your life other than the way I live mine. I'm always at the top, or I'm always at the bottom. And I would never want an 8-to-5 job, 40-hour week, dinner at home every night. I don't want to be routine. I don't want to be average. Mm-hmm. I'm willing to take major risk to be at the top. And, you know, in some ways, being at the bottom really is good because it makes you appreciate the way it is at the top.
You certainly were at the bottom before you brought him to the top. We can use the old phrase, what goes around comes around, though. You know, I've heard you talk about this. A lot of people say it's one of the oldest, hey, watch your butt, because what goes around comes around. You don't care about that stuff.
No, I mean, I know people are going to beat our teams. Hey, that's not the first time, and it won't be the last. I live with that. I mean, that doesn't bother me. Yeah, I think it's much easier said than done about the what goes around comes around.
Mm-hmm. But how can you keep it going like this? This is an intense level. It's an obsessive level that you've not just done here, but before that Miami, and before that Oklahoma State, and before that Arkansas. This is a long run, a lot of stress on the mind and the soul. How long can you keep this up?
Well, yeah, I'm not in it for longevity.
You're not?
No, not at all. And in fact, you know...
You in it for history, Jimmy?
No, not really. I'm not trying to beat anybody's records. I don't have that kind of pace. You know, I don't want to pace myself through, 15 more years. I want to be the best that I can be for this particular year. And just like I do every year, after it's over with, I assess things. I say, hey, am I having fun? Is this enjoyable? Is this what I want to continue to do? And I make a decision. Every year I make a decision.
Mike Tyson, you know boxing. Mike Tyson was a favorite fighter of yours. He will be back someday, too. I remember once I asked him, tell me about fear. He said, fear is my friend. I said, it's interesting. I said, how do you mean? He says, Customato told me that fear can be used two ways. To your benefit, it can light a room and warm you. To your detriment, fear can burn you alive. How do you use fear?
I think every now and then you have to have some fear in you just to motivate you.
Do you?
Yeah, well, without question. I guarantee you, after I made the statement prior to San Francisco, for a couple of days, my stomach churned. I felt like we were going to win.
But what did I do? Maybe I bit off too much?
Just that I've got to live with, did I affect this game in a negative way? As it turned out, our guys played fantastic, the best they've ever played. San Francisco probably didn't play as well as they can play.
Do you think you intimidated, you personally, with your words, the 49ers?
No, I don't think so. I mean, the 49ers are a class organization. They're a class team, extremely talented. But at the coin toss, they probably should have shaken our captain's hands. So something was on their mind other than playing football.
You know, Jerry Rice shot one of your defensive secondary guys, the bird, before the game, instead when he extended his hand. He also said, I thought what Johnson said was asinine, but maybe he was right. He said it after the game. I mean, right there, that says it all. That maybe he was right. They actually thought that you, in fact, were right, that you in pulling that off.
Well, I think the biggest thing there is you really have to focus in on your team, your coach, your players, and that's what you listen to. If you start listening to others, and the opposing coach, a lot of times when he's talking to the media, he's talking to you.
Right.
When he's talking, it's not really to the reporter. And I think some people understand that you don't talk to the media, you talk through the media.
You know what I never understood, though? College coaches are given the credit for being colorful. Lou Holtz, Joe Paterno, you know, Johnny Majors, all these personalities. It goes on and on. Barry Switzer. The pro coaches who've already proven that they can coach because they're in the pros, they're the tight guys. They're the ones with no personality. They're the guys who are the paramilitary. Don't say anything to rile your opponent. Let's put that stuff on the bulletin board. It should be the other way around, Jim.
You know, I think professional coaching, and this is kind of what I saw when I first went into the NFL. First of all, it was a closed circle. They didn't really want outsiders coming in because it was almost a tradition of if you didn't do well one place, you go to another place. And you just kept going through the carousel. And so the one thing that you always wanted to do is you always wanted to cover yourself. Don't take too many risks.
Don't burn those bridges.
Right. I mean, you try, if you go out there and you irritate too many people, when you're out, they may not hire you.
So you don't give a damn if you burn a bridge.
All I want to do is win games, and I'll look for every single edge. Even if I will do the slightest little edge, even though the downside is large, if it's going to help me win.
Do you hate losing more than you love winning?
Yeah, no doubt about it. The two don't equate. You know, being 8-8, you know, that's not good. You know, and maybe it's 10-1. Because that one devastating loss burns in your mind a heck of a lot more than those 10 wins.
After you lost to Buffalo this year, there was a clip of you on the podium, and you went, it was like there was like a sadness in your soul. It was, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
Well, it was frustrating. It was frustrating in that I knew that our guys had worked to get ready for the season. But like I told them, I said, mules work. We didn't work smart. You know, we didn't really focus in on our opponents because we were so distracted with Emmett not being there.
Right.
And really, I fell into that trap myself. I'm supposed to be the coach, and maybe I should have been more focused. But it was frustrating for me not to have Emmett there because he was such a key player to our football team. And at that podium, after that game, I was just what can I do?
Well, mules work, but did you feel like a jackass? I guess a better question.
I think a lot of people in the stands felt like I was a jackass.
We'll come back with Jimmy Johnson in just a few moments. We're going to talk about control. Has he ever lost control? Has he ever lost control recently with his football team? The coach of the Dallas Cowboys, Jimmy Johnson, from Atlanta. After this.
Up close is...
Talking to Jimmy Johnson from Atlanta, site of Super Bowl 28. We've talked about this before, the fact he color codes his place, his condo. It's got to be white carpeting, got to be a special look. He's fastidious, he's obsessive with things like lint. It's a cliche to say a control freak, but certainly if you look in the dictionary on that phrase, you're going to see Jimmy Johnson. There are some people who have suggested in several books that you lost control in several times. One that comes to mind was after the Redskins lost last year, that you cracked up. That was the phrase. Some people have been quoted for the record. Tony Wise, Larry Lacewell, Dave Wanstadt, perhaps your best friend in the sport, Troy Aikman. Is it true?
Well, in every instance, and I know what you're referring to, all four of those people disputed what was written. Mm-hmm. Things were taken out of context, one little sentence, and it was really distorted. And it was reported that I lost control after the Washington loss. We never lost another game after that game. Mm-hmm. So whether or not I lost control or not, for some reason, we kept winning, and we won every game right on through the Super Bowl.
What is crossing the line for a coach after a loss? Throwing stuff isn't. All coaches do that. Screaming at players isn't.
See, Roy, I think you've got to do this. If you're going to be an individual that tries to motivate others, if you try to do the same thing time after time, or if you try to do the things that everybody else does, the players that we have today, it's not going to take hold. It's going to go in one ear and out the other. Mm-hmm. So at times you have to be different. At times you have to be extreme. At times you have to be bizarre, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Uneven, it seems like. We talked about this at the press conference yesterday. Don't treat players the same.
Right.
There's an old adage, treat everybody the same. That's BS for you.
I treat every player differently.
Different.
Every one of them differently.
Now, go into that because we talked about it yesterday at the press conference, how a marginal player, if he falls asleep, running through plays and stuff, meeting, he falls asleep, gone. Troy Aikman falls asleep, hey, Troy, don't do it again.
Yeah, I mean, and our players understand that's the way I operate. Perfect example, Eric Williams missed the bus going to the media press day for the Super Bowl. I had a team meeting. I got on to him. He's going to have a major fine. And I told the players, I said, because he's such a good player, it's not going to be as big a fine, and I'm not going to be as drastic with him as what I would otherwise. Not just a good player, hard worker. Mm-hmm. The harder they work, the better performer they are, the higher they are up on the scale.
Do you think you lack compassion? Are you a cold man when it comes to tough decisions?
I think the decisions are made without compassion. I think there's feeling there. There's compassion. I may have to release one of the nicest players on our team. I have feeling for him. I may have a tear in my eye, but I'm going to make that decision because it makes us a better football team.
When Leon made the play, I'm not going to get into it at length, but when he did, were you angry? Were you infuriated? I mean, this cost you a football game. You're a control man, and this is a player who knows the rules, and it's out of control.
I was sick, but I wasn't as sick as Leon. I went into the training room, and he's crying his eyes out. And here's a guy that's very shy, very nervous about working with the media, nervous around people he doesn't know, but an outstanding player, an outstanding worker. And he was devastated. I told him, I said, Leon, everything's going to be fine. And then I told him the next day, I said, as long as I'm a coach of the Cowboys, you're going to be a Dallas Cowboy. So you don't ever have to worry about being away from here. You made a mistake, but hey, a game is made up with so many mistakes, and that one mistake is not only reason we lost the game.
It's an old saying that the toughest thing about coaching is knowing when to pat somebody in the back and kick him in the butt. We'll come back more with Jimmy Johnson from Atlanta after this. I'm just going to tell you what I've heard and what I know. Apparently there is a loophole that says if you want to move from one city to another in the National Football League, you can do so as long as you're moving up. In other words, if you're coach and you move to a position of general manager or president or part owner or something, you can do that without there being any repercussions. I've also heard that Jimmy Johnson has friends, associates who have already moved to Jacksonville. I want to talk about that for a few moments. I don't expect you to tell me you're moving right here on this television show, but you've already said you've been intrigued by the possibility. Have you spoken to the Jacksonville people personally?
Well, I called Wayne Weaver and I recommended some people, Bob Ackles, Norv Turner as the coach, Brenda Bushell, who's a close friend of mine, to the organization. And we had some philosophical discussions, but had nothing along the line of me being there. And it was more of a recommendation of other people. Now, I said that I was intrigued. I was really more in a sense of this, the standard answer is, no, I'm only looking toward this game. I'm not going to look further than that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The reality, people look at their options. People look and say, hey, is this going to be something that helps my career? Is this something going to be significantly better? That's the reality. That may not happen.
Jerry didn't even like the fact that you said you were intrigued. He said, you tell somebody you're not interested in this real world, and that's the end of it. So you didn't say that. You weren't interested.
You tell somebody you're not interested if you own the Dallas Cowboys and you're a multi-millionaire. If you work for a living, the reality of it is, if you work for a living, you look at what options you have.
Now, here's the other points. You can play with it any way you want, be political if you want, but I don't think you are very political about this. Jimmy and Jerry begrudge each other. They respect each other, especially as a businessman, but they don't really like each other, or they're not particularly affectionate with each other. On top of that, every real decision that's made is Jerry's decision. Jimmy's got to make the decisions, and because of that, he's going to go where he can make his own decisions.
I don't think that's real. Jerry totally handles the business part. I do the football. Now,
what about when Jerry said to Vanity Fair this year, I could coach this football team? I'm not making this up. He said that I could coach this football. How did that make you feel?
I laughed.
Okay. But did it make you angry?
No, not at all, because I've come to know Jerry better than I ever did. And I respect Jerry. And we have a good relationship. I think we've got the best working relationship there is in the league.
So you're staying a Dallas Cowboy. Is that what you're telling me?
In all probability. But realistically, again, I look at every year as a new year.
Talking to Jimmy Johnson, Super Bowl 28 in Atlanta. Quick thoughts, the following. Will, why is yours stronger than most, if not everybody in this business?
I think because I focus it in. It's like a rifle and not a shotgun. I don't look at a lot of things, and a lot of things are really not real important to me, but some things are very important.
Swimming with sharks is the old saying. You haven't you may have been swimming with some sharks, but I know you were swimming in an aquarium in Dallas with stingrays.
And sharks.
And sharks. What was that like?
I enjoyed it. I love the water. I love the tropical fish. It brings back memories of the Bahamas and South Florida. And
is there something metaphoric about it, though, for you?
Yeah. Actually, the scuba diving in particular, you just float, and it's almost like you're on a high of some sort. And it really is a great, relaxing feeling.
Besides talent, why is Emmitt Smith the man? Besides talent.
Fantastic pride. Tremendous competitor. His pride is such that he wants to be the very, very best.
And Troy Aikman, $55 million. Some people say you guys got off light because you front-loaded all his money. So it's a hell of a deal for the Cowboys.
Well, I'm not much of a financial man, but I know that Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin, are the best I've ever seen at those three positions.
Noel Walsh win 3 Super Bowls. No one's ever won 3 in a row. We're not saying it's going to happen for you. But that part of it, you said before you don't care that much about history. But that part of it, to do something that no one else has done, is that significant to you?
Not really. Not if I'm not going to... Only if I'm going to be happy doing it. The most important thing for me is to enjoy what I'm doing. And the records, you know, whoever has a record, it's going to be broken by someone. And I don't have a burning desire to break anybody's records.
Last point. A lot of people say, you know, we talk a lot of time with Jimmy Johnson. We reanalyze this stuff over and over again, coaches and teams and football and Super Bowl. I mean, it's just a game. It's just a sport. How important really are these people? Well, obviously, teachers important, firemen important, all these people in our lives are more important. But why is coaching, and why is coaching the Dallas Cowboys a vital job? Why do you think it's a very important thing to do?
Well, I think a lot of people, and I'm not just talking about the people in the organization, the players, coaches, etc. A lot of people throughout the country, maybe world, live a part of their lives through the Dallas Cowboys or the San Francisco 49ers or something that they identify with as far as being exciting, fun, positive. You know, with the Dallas Cowboys winning, hey, there's a lot of people that feel good about getting out of bed in the morning and going to work because they identify with things that that are positive in their lives. And so it is important. And as far as it being a game, you know, don't tell those kids or players or coaches or anybody that identifies with the Cowboys, don't tell them it's a game when you've had a devastating loss and you're crying your eyes out. It's more than a game.
He is the brass, in a matter of speaking. Jimmy Johnson, best of luck to you for all future endeavors. It was great talking to you in Atlanta.
Appreciate it, Roy.
We'll come back with more after this.